We were up in the mountains. We were walking through knee-deep snow. It had snowed all morning, a little bit of a breeze in our face, and it was just as quiet as could be. It was that perfect elk hunting morning. It was almost mid-November. My mind wasn't fully attuned to the possibility of grizzly bears. I didn't have my pepper spray where it was handy. Walked up over a little rise, and there was a sow and a cub right there. And at about 3 bounds, as I was hollering bear, that bear was on me. There was no time to chamber a shell and shoot the bear.
That bear had Marty upside down, completely off the ground, shaking him.
And grabbed the back of my leg, picked me up, and shook me like a doll and threw me down in the snow. And then proceeded to stand over the top of me.
I jacked a shell in the chamber because it was what was in my hands. I leaned up against a lodgepole tree, and that bear looked at me, put the crosshairs on the bear's neck, and squeezed the trigger. Nothing happened. That rifle was on safety when I went to fire it, and I remember feeling the front teeth of that bear right about my forehead, and the back teeth of that bear right around the back of my head. And that bear started biting down and pulled the stocking hat off my head. And that bear actually at that point started biting into my shoulder. And all of a sudden that bear just left. And when that bear left, I remember reaching down at that point, grabbing my pepper spray, pulling it up to my chest and popping the safety off it. And I got up to my knees and I saw that bear was in the process of running back down to where Marty was. So I charged and I yelled at that bear as loud as I could again. And that bear stopped and looked at me, looked at Marty, looked uphill, and she just turned and took off, and that cub was already gone.
And after the incident was over, that's when the work kind of started.
And his hamstring was pretty much opened up completely. When he asked me, how bad is it? He's a guy that likes an honest answer. And I knew that, so I looked at him and I told him, if we don't get this bleeding stopped, you're gonna die. Blood coagulant, blood stopper was, I think, the brand that we had in our packs there. Getting that packed in that wound and wrapping it with what I believe was vet wrap that we had at the time. And it took care of the danger, the situation that had to be dealt with at that time. And
we suggested that we send that third person down for help and you and I just stay there. We had a fire going. We were going to be dry and warm. There were some snow flurries in the air, if I remember it, but you had built the lean-to. And it was just a matter of staying there, staying comfortable, or as comfortable as possible, and waiting for help to arrive.
And by no means do I want to come here and tell anybody how they should prepare. I want to give suggestions, and they should listen to a lot of other people, and especially experts in the field.
Our goal here is to just educate people and let them know how easy it can be to be prepared in that grizzly country, and maybe avoid a situation instead of being another statistic. These bears are extremely quick. They're very fast. They'll outrun a quarter horse. You don't have time to respond if you're not expecting bear.
You know, one of the approaches that I've taken anymore is to not hunt alone in areas that have a high population of grizzlies. And I always carry 2 instead of 1 defense mechanisms, pepper spray and or firearms attached to me, just in case you lose one of those defenses that you're using. You always have a second one attached to you. And when we were hiking through the woods or coming back to camp, we always had the what if scenarios. What if we ran into a bear? What if that bear was there? What would we do? And we practiced that numerous times.
We already know that I'm going to come up on your right side, so you can, if the trail is narrow, you take that 1 step to the left and I come up on the right, and we're shoulder to shoulder. What we've done there is made ourselves twice as big, and we're both ready to deploy pepper spray or whatever means we have with us that we feel is necessary to repel that bear.
You practice those, you practice them, and till those things essentially become conditioned. A conditioned response is what we're looking for as far as the safety. The preparation and practice actually led into what I feel could have been probably one of the most dangerous situations with bear encounter, and how that situation actually came out with neither one of us actually being touched by that grizzly bear. I remember walking in front of Marty and walking through the timber, and due to the bear sign that was around and the bears that we knew were around, I was actually carrying that pepper spray in my hand. And I remember looking down to the right and actually seeing an elk laying, horns up, laying on its side. And about the center of that elk, there was a bear that was actually laying, appeared to be sleeping on this elk. And then Marty at that point followed the protocol that we've had set up on what we do when we encounter a bear.
That bear woke up and put on a charge.
And it's a lot like a car wreck. This is happening before you even realize it started.
And as Greg had his bear spray ready, so was mine. We both emptied our can of bear spray at the same time in a huge orange cloud. That bear stopped immediately.
He actually came to a sliding stop. And at that point, we were both out of pepper spray. And that's where it comes back to the importance of having, I think, a second backup measure. So when that bear turned and looked at us, the only thing I had left was my .44 Magnum. And I remember pulling that out and getting ready and set for a second encounter.
He turned around then and headed off in the other direction. The more you pre-plan, the more you run through a scenario, the better you're going to be when that situation does come about.
I agree.